Hello, everybody. I'm John Self, and welcome to Lunch and Learn, an encore presentation. This is a repeat performance of a Lunch and Learn live stream earlier in the day that was disrupted by a fire alarm in the building. Thank you for your patience, and now let's get busy and learn about the importance of your references. I've been a recruiter for a long time. I'm going to tell my story in just a minute for those of you who don't know me. But let me tell you this. This is an important and often overlooked part of the job search process. It's all about who, how, and when. That's really what it's all about. The references are an amazing power, but you have to know how to select them, how to use them, and when to do the process. So let's look at today's agenda first. We're going to talk about my career journey and to talk about so you can understand my level of credibility on this subject. Second, what most people believe about references. Okay, that can always get you in trouble. It's not what you know for sure that gets you in trouble. It's not what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. So, third thing is, why are they overlooked until they are needed? That's a great question. The mystery of life. 4, they can affect your compensation offer, absolutely, and so many other issues. And number 5, let's talk about who we're going to pick, how we're going to pick them, and when we're going to do it. So let's get busy. Why applicants overlook references? Well, that, as I said, is one of life's great mysteries. The underlying issue, I think we're all afraid that they'll say something bad about us, or they just may say, not only no, but hell no, I wouldn't be a reference for you. So we want to avoid those unpleasantries. We select references we know and trust, but not necessarily because they can affirm our performance. And that's where a big mistake is made. We've seen tons of candidates really hurt themselves in the last minutes of an arduous search because they didn't take care of the referencing properly. Finally, most reference selection is made in a time of insecurity, and so we tend to gravitate, I'm going to pick him. I worked for him for 5 or 6 years, but he always liked me, okay? Well, that's good, and maybe he's a fourth reference, but you need to get 3 people who can speak to what you've been doing lately. Okay, let's talk about my journey. For those of you who don't know me, I'm John Self. I've been a career coach since the mid-2000s, and got really busy during the pandemic. Was very, very successful in letting, I think, 18 of 20 clients get placed during that period of time. And today I coach all over the world. I do executive coaching on career management. I also help people in outplacement when career transition. And I also help people do career planning and really try to move toward their life goals. I started out as a newspaper reporter in Tyler, Texas, where I grew up, where I am now, and where I swore I'd never come back again. So let me just briefly highlight my schedule, highlight my career. As I said, I started off as a newspaper reporter doing obituaries and rewrites in Tyler. I became a crime writer and investigative journalist. I worked as an editor at the Lubbock Avalanche Journal, and I've ended my career in the news business at the Houston Post. After almost 3 years on the crime beat, that's a lot of dead bodies, and I was glad to move on. And so I joined Herman Hospital as a director of public relations, and within the first 3 or 4 months, I found out that I would be the person leading the implementation of the Herman Life Flight program. It was not my idea. I wasn't even sure it'd be successful, and there were a lot of great people, Marguerite Bison, Glenda Gates, Larry Bridgman, James Duke, and of course, Bill Smith, who stuck his neck out as the CEO to do a trial program at a time when we were really facing some really tough financial challenges. I left the Herman after a year and became the national marketing manager for helicopter companies. And over that period of 3 years, I leased 14 programs nationally. All but one are still in place. And it's one of the great thrills of my life. That day in the hallway where Bill Smith told me in an offhanded way I would be running the program, that literally changed the trajectory of my life and helped me achieve all the things I always dreamed about. I helped form the second largest hospital network of rural and community hospitals in Texas in the 1980s. I became the executive director for the largest private EMS system in Texas. We became the private provider of the year during my tenure. I founded 2 executive search firms, and I have recruited in 6 countries on 4 continents. So that's kind of who I am. So let's talk about what people believe about references. 5 reference mistakes. By the time they ask for the references, the offer's already in the bag. I don't need to worry. I can just give them 3 names, and unless they say I'm Jack the Ripper or they're bad pictures of me and with barnyard animals, pardon that inappropriate reference, then I'm probably home free, and nothing could be further from the truth. I have seen so many executives fall short because they stumbled with their reference process. Some people trust in the loyalty of their friendship more than the content that those friends might offer up as references. Now, that's not to say they're going to say bad things, but it may be that they don't say the right things. They may have to say, I don't know that, or I don't remember that. And so you need to pick your references carefully, not just based on friendship, not just based on that you hope they'll say nice things, but it's not what they say. It is really what they say and not how they say it as much. Content is really important. I only need to have 3 references. Well, in the old days, that may be true, but why only have 3? If you have a superior, a peer, and a subordinate, you should always have that that combination without fail. A superior, a peer, and a subordinate. Then one other from those categories. No personal references, no pastor, no famous news anchor that may know you, none of those things. They have to be able to speak to your ability to do certain specific things required in the job description. So we recommend 4 references. Screening my references is not necessary because I know them and they like me and everything will be okay. And this is back to that passive aggressive, we don't want rejection issue. We don't want to call them and ask them to say things about us and tell us what they're going to say because we might not like it. Well, grow up. You're an executive. You're going for a great job. This is part of the process. If you want to do it right, you're going to do it this way. So then we'll finally at number 5, who are we going to pick? How are we going to pick them? How are we going to vet them? And when will we do that? So let's get busy and talk about the importance of referencing. Again, references are an incredible power, but only if you activate it. You've got to activate the switch to make it as powerful and as strategic as you want it to be. Now, some people say, yeah, I just want somebody who's going to sing my praises. That's the cheerleader reference. And cheerleaders are great for firing up the crowd, but that's transactional. It's not strategic. It doesn't necessarily, they may get really excited about you, but after the call's over, they're going to go, but is he capable of doing a turnaround? Can he improve our financial position? Can he enhance our cash flow? Can we add additional reserves at days of cash on hand? The cheerleader type very rarely does that. That's why it's important to carefully source primed references so that they can make an impact on your job search program. Now, again, more common missteps. First is fear of rejection. We all hold that. None of us want to be told you're dumb. No, I won't give you a reference, or you were pretty stupid. It won't be a good reference. First of all, people, if they know you're looking for a reference, they don't want to give you one, they probably won't talk to you. Okay? So that's a good hint. And then if there are too many people who don't want to talk to you, you've got a bigger problem. But most people postpone making the ask because they're a little bit unsure what people might say, or they're reluctant to do it because they may be told no. So at the last minute, what are we doing? We're running around getting 3 people that worked with us that sound reasonably credible, just anybody that'll say nice things. Now, here's the truth. Most executives rarely vet their references regarding their knowledge of the performance accomplishments. In other words, if you have a reference and they can't answer questions because they say, I didn't work with him on those issues, or I don't have never supervised him in that regard, those are not great references. You think, oh, well, yeah, they are. But no, they're not. The reference has to be able to really give value and reassure the reference caller that you can do the job that the prospective employer is trying to fill. And the stronger those references are on those points, the better off you're going to be. Now, you need to pick people who can speak to certain skill sets that employer is looking for. So it's called customized referencing. It's like customizing your resume to please that scanner, computer scanner. And, generic references are about as useful today as those generic resumes are. So customize your references. That is to pick people and submit people who can speak to the issues at hand on this particular job. Another job may speak to a whole different skill set that these people don't know about or didn't work with you on, and so you'll have another panel of candidates, references over here. The other thing that's really common, and it's really bad form if you're a job applicant, and that's leaving your references in the dark. You call them and say, Danny, you're probably going to get a phone call. I'm a finalist in a search. Just wanted to give you a heads up. Here are the issues, blah, blah, blah. And maybe even send them some talking points. That's okay. It's not unethical. A lot of people do it. And usually the referees, the people getting called, by the prospective employer, are very appreciative of that, because sometimes they don't want to admit that they don't remember. And if they're offended by that, well, I'm sorry, you don't have to give it to them, but it is very, very helpful, because that way you give that reference a heads up. These are the key issues that they're going to be asking you about. If you recall, I did this, 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 and this. We had setbacks here, but here's how we mitigated our setbacks. So you give them talking points, because that is you're now being a good, helpful candidate. Recruiters like good, helpful candidates. Well, so do references. The people that you're going to ask to speak on your behalf, be helpful. Communicate with them. And if you didn't get the job, then call them back and say, hey, did you ever hear from my references? No, I didn't get the job, but I just wanted to let you know. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people who were references that said, I got called 8 or 9 times for this guy, and he never talked to me one time to tell me how he was doing. I don't think I'll be a reference for him again. References are an important asset. You take care of them. Now, again, we're going to talk a lot about this today, because it's so important, because it's one of the issues that it's a frequent gap in referencing, that your references aren't aligned with the employer's needs for the hire. But when they don't do that, then their reference is not as focused. It may not be as strong. A strong reference that's aligned with the employer's hot buttons, that can talk about your skills and your successes with the things that they're most concerned about, that's going to strengthen your pre-offer relationship with the employer. And that's really good for you. Secondly, if they realize that, oh my God, this guy's really a home run hitter, we need to pump up our offer somewhat, because we don't want to let him get away. If we don't give him a good offer, he might go someplace else. One of the reference said he's probably looking at 2 or 3 offers. If that's true, a reference can always work that into the conversation. It gives that whole bit of news more credibility. So I have seen people add signing bonuses that weren't planning to add a signing bonus, and to even offer more favorable relocation compensation, because the references were so strong, and they had a hint that they needed to juice the offer in order to land the candidate. So this is why references can be so powerful, but you got to leverage them. And to leverage them, you got to have a relationship with them. And to have a relationship with them, you got to talk to them. And you got to do that early on. So the other thing, of course, goes without saying, it can improve your base or incentive compensation. Now, people say, okay, what's the secret of references? Well, it's about doing a good job. Building a reference is doing good work every day, every week, and every month. Really at the core, references are about your performance and how do you treat people. And I think maintaining relationships with former colleagues is absolutely essential. It's just dead bang essential career reference management tactic. Another reason that you keep a journal, to keep up with people's emails, to write those things down and add them to your database. And you need to keep a database. The more people that you maintain relationships with that are really focused, you have a good relationship with, they understand who you are and what you're good at, and there's mutual respect, and that you're willing to help them at the drop of a hat, that's how you build stronger references. And the stronger your references are, the more likely you are to beat out the dozens of other people that are trying to get the job you want. And so getting a job these days, it's not about having the experience and having the right degree and you went and worked for these nice companies that everybody knows about. Oh, Lord, look, he went and did this and did that. And he worked. Those are good people. We need to hire him. Well, there are a lot of people that work for other good people. There are a lot of people who have good credentials. There's a lot of people that went to Harvard or went to Rice or went to SMU or Texas or, Washington or Northwestern. A lot of people did that. And a lot of people have had great performance. So how are you going to stand out? One way you stand out is having the best references. And having the best references means that you have built relationships over time. And then you've also, during the job search, gave them a heads up, vetted them, interviewed them, and then when the references time came, you gave them talking points, and you helped guide the conversation. So that's a really important point to remember. So let's walk through this again. When you begin the selection vetting process, is when you start your search. Somebody says, "Well, I don't want to do that." Okay, screw it up. But you really need to begin the selection vetting process of references when you start your search. Otherwise you're going to be trying to do this in a day or two, and it's not going to be very good. As I said at the outset, I have seen executives get within a hair of $500,000 and $600,000 jobs and then screw it up because they did not have a good handle on their references, and the references they did give us couldn't talk about the issues that we were most concerned with. So you want to vet the targets for current and relevant employers. You want to pick people who can help you with that employer who has a specific need set. And, and that's all based on the job summary plus all your interviews. Those interviews are great because you're learning about the company and they're learning about you, but now you need to share that with your references. Why? Because they can help you. If you target them, if you tell them what the issues are, if you give them the talking points, remind them of your performance, they can help you more. And that will help you get a stronger offer. Now, how many references should you submit? As I said a minute ago, 4. It's not 3 anymore. 4. Why? You always want to have one. People still are okay with 3, but you want to have one in case somebody's sick, somebody went out of town on business unexpectedly, somebody decided to take a vacation. You don't want to hold up the search or have to then wait 2 or 3 days only to find out they need another reference. So give them 4. That gives you some cushion. And again, they must be a superior, they must be a peer, and they must be a subordinate in the group. Okay, finally, for senior executives, you're probably going to go through more searches than you ever dreamed possible, certainly more searches than you absolutely want to. It's just the nature of the beast. Why? Because there's a white-collar recession. There are more people looking for executive and management jobs today than there are jobs. Now, somebody says, well, the jobs report was really good. It was, but that is not the management executive jobs. Those have been shrinking very slowly, very, off the radar since about 2010. It's elasticity. We're giving more people to do more. We're asking executives to cover more departments. We're asking rural hospital administrators to cover more hospitals. Maybe instead of over 1, you're now over 2 or 3 or have 3 chief operating officers report to you. So everybody is trying to improve productivity. And when the pandemic came along and a lot of people were laid off, they got rid of a lot of managers and executives. So when the pandemic eased and people started coming back to work on a remote work process, suddenly executives looked around and said, hey, we're doing okay. We're making our numbers and we don't have all those executives we used to have. Maybe we didn't need those people. So let's eliminate those positions. And that happened a lot. And so that was another element of the contraction. They were laid off at the start of the pandemic. Everybody thought they'd get called back. But the truth is a lot of those positions never came back. So what questions do you want to vet your references? I talk about vetting all the time. And so what do you want to ask? Well, when you get your references, the questions you routinely want to ask, first of all, make it clear you're viewing this opportunity, whether it's an enforced job search or whether it's on your own that you want to do but to move up, that you want to make this a learning experience. So I'd like to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind. What do you think my strengths are? Now, I want you to be truthful. You're not going to hurt my feelings, I promise. What did you like or not like about the way I did my job? Where do you think I could improve? What do you think I should emphasize? Describe the types of jobs you would like me to pursue, and then get the referees, the person that's going to give you the reference, get their feedback. Ask for guidance. Well, John, I don't really see you doing that because your strength is really with people, not with operations. And I know you've always wanted to move into operations, but you got to be careful. You got to be careful. So that's great information to have at the front end of the search, not at the end. You can't do all that at the end of the search. Things are beginning to move too fast. So that's at the front end of the search. The information that they're giving you is going to be invaluable because you're going to use it. If they say, John, you were the biggest chatty Cathy when you first came to work for me, and I had to really get on your case several times about talking inappropriately and talking about things that I really didn't want us to be talking about in front of just the employees. But you didn't know, and I gave you some time, and I worked with you, and I gave you a bad time several times, but you learned. You got really good at that. And and so that was something that was a weakness early on. Well, you can even say that now. You can use it in the interview. What are your weaknesses, John? Well, I can tell you one of my employers, one of my supervisors told me early on in my career that I wasn't very adept and very sophisticated in terms of how I managed my communications and what I said to who and what I should have said and shouldn't have said. And I was new. I'd been in the news business. That wasn't an issue there. But I had to learn, and I learned in a hurry. And I lost some butt leather on that as well. But I did learn, and I think I've gotten much, much better at that. So that's how you use that information. Somebody says, John, you were kind of sloppy. You were late to work a lot. But, you did a good job. Overall, you did a great job, and that's what I'm going to tell them. Well, you can say, early on, when I transitioned from the news business, I worked at night. And so transitioning to a day job where I was commuting in traffic, I was late several times because I didn't have the knowledge or didn't have the feel for how early I had to leave for my job to get there on time. And there were several times I was late to meetings, and I was called out on that. And I had to adjust my mindset about getting there on time. So that's really, really important. Those things, that information that you can get in those interviews with your references can help you put issues to rest before they come up, or take issues off the table where you proactively bring an issue up in an interview, and so it doesn't become an issue in the referencing. Now, again, leverage this information. You can also use it to formulate other answers like, John, your strengths are really good at this. I've never seen anybody who could really network as well as you do and build business like you do. That's great. So you now can then maybe, okay, I'm going to tell a couple of stories. I'm going to work that phrase in about I'm one of the best he'd ever seen, etc. You want to build on your strengths. Identify stories that will build confidence and trust with the interviewers. So this information that you're getting from your referees up front can help you develop answers and narratives for the actual interviews before they even talk to the references. And also use the feedback they give you about your style so that you can bring that up to show when you're asked, well, what can our employees expect from you? Well, let me tell you, I've had several bosses say this about my style. Boom, 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 boom. Now, so that helps you get prepared for an issue that you might not have even thought about before the question came. I've always said this, and I hope you'll take this to heart, that your references are really your secret power, your unique differentiators. When you're competing with hundreds of other people for a good executive job, understand that, at first the odds are really, really bad, and you have to work really hard, and you have to nail every interview. You have to be spot on. So having all that reference intel helps you deliver a better performance in job interviews, because that's where it's won or lost, okay? But they can also be a very powerful differentiator for you when you get to town to 2 or 3 people and they're checking references, and your references are superior to what they're hearing from the other people who are probably kind of haphazard with selecting references. So you have the chance to have references that are really focused, that are really going to be on point and talk about the things that are important to that employer. If you don't do that, it won't happen magically. I want to thank you for joining us today. I always enjoy visiting with you, and I hope you'll be with us tomorrow afternoon for another live coaching session. This is a replay, so if you're seeing this on replay, our office hours are held every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central Time, and tomorrow we've got a great presentation on interviewing skills, a little different look at how you have to get prepared for an interview. This is an encore presentation, and this will also replay tomorrow at lunch if you missed it. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you soon.